SigTalks, episode 016, Growth and Commitment, Consultation Call, November 2010.
Hello, and welcome to SigTalks with your host, Dr. Carrie Sigafoose, your home for the chiropractic philosophy, where we discuss the teachings of Dr. James Sigafoose, from his writings to his talks and his many audio presentations.
When trying to figure out what I want to talk about each week, I have to dig through literally hundreds of Dr. Sigafoose's old audios. This week I came across one of his consultation calls dated November 2010, entitled Growth and Commitment. And seeing that's what I'm trying to do with my own self, I thought I might share that with you. So with that, let's listen to it, and I'll see you on the other side.
We will get started. So let's talk about a couple of things here tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about growth, and then we're going to talk about commitment. Which are two topics I think that we can handle. So start with, the process. The plan for God is growth. Everything is supposed to grow. That's why it always amazes me when people say, well, I don't want to grow anymore. But life is growth, and growth is change. Now, again, it's why we can read the same book 2 or 3 times, and they don't rewrite the book. It's because we read it differently. It's simply because we have grown. We have changed ourselves. So capital is an effect. It's not a cause. And it's a servant. It's not a master, and it's certainly not an end. It's a means. And wealth should never be desired as an end, but simply as a means of accomplishing an end. And the success is contingent upon a higher ideal than the mere accumulation of riches. Because there are a lot of people who are very successful who are not necessarily rich in a monetary sense. And the conditions which we meet in the world without correspond to the conditions that we find in the world within. And this is brought about by the law of attraction. So to control thought is to control circumstances and conditions, and environment, and destiny. So how are we supposed to control thought? To think is to create a thought. Good and evil are not entities. They are simply words which we use to indicate the result of our actions. And these actions are in turn predetermined by the character of our thought. And if our thought is constructive and harmonious, then we manifest good. But if it's destructive and discordant, we manifest evil. B.J. always talked about having a constructive thinking versus a destructive thinking. And of course, that's when he said, be careful who you rent the upstairs to. But his examples were that as constructive thinking was Abraham Lincoln having freed the slaves. Destructive thinking, he always mentioned Hitler as one who literally destroyed his nation and pretty much of Europe. So, if you desire to visualize a different environment, the process is simply to hold the ideal in mind until your vision is made real. So you don't give any thought to persons, places, or things. They have no place in the absolute. The environment you desire is going to contain everything necessary, and the right persons and the right things are going to come at the right time and in the right place. So if you wish to bring about the realization of any desire, you have to form a mental picture of success in your mind, and by consciously visualizing your desire. That's where the part of your mind, if you still have it, the imagination comes into play, because you can imagine the thing having already happened. You can imagine it being done, and you can imagine the formula of being the thing and doing the thing and having the thing. So that you can exercise how it would be if you actually had it in your environment, even though right now all you have it is in your mind. But you live it over and over and over and over and over, and talk about it over and over, and act upon it over and over until it manifests itself. So we can We can see only what already exists in the objective world, but what we visualize already exists in the spiritual world. And this process of thinking forms impressions on the mind. These impressions, in turn, form concepts and ideals, and they, in turn, are the plans from which the master architect is going to weave the future. Now, that master architect happens to be the universe, and the universe happens to be the causal energy, or God. However you wish to word it, it's all the same thing. And the psychologists have come to the conclusion that there is but one sense, the sense of feeling, and that all other senses are but modifications of this one sense, this being true. We know why feeling is the very fountainhead of power, and why the emotions so easily overcome the intellect, and why we have to put feeling into our thoughts if we wish results. Thought and feeling are the irresistible combination. So when we're running our imagination and we're seeing our desires manifesting in our mind, then we also have to put the energy of emotion behind it, so we become very emotional about what it is that we have in our thought process. And as we do that, it brings on that which is going to be materialized in our environment much quicker. And we're told that man has dominion over all things. That's what it says in the Bible. That's what Jesus said. And this dominion is established through the mind. There's always the cry to have, but never the cry to be. People fail to understand they can't have one with the other or without the other, and that they must first find the kingdom before they can find the things that are added. So there again, we were told that we need to find the kingdom of God within, and then all these things shall be added unto that. So all the things that we're talking about are all the things that we desire, and they'll be added when we go into the proper place. And of course, you know, the have and be just pass backwards, because we have to be the thing first, be in our mind first, and then do the thing that's necessary to have the thing that we want. So it's a be, do, have formula, not the have or the do thing, be thing, and then have thing. So ease and perfection are gained by repetition. So we repeat in our thought process and run through our imagination, and pump, it'll come up. Not in a day or a week perhaps, but it'll come up in time. And physical energy is nothing in comparison with the omnipotence of thought, because thought enables man to harness all other natural powers. So remember that fundamentally the innate mind is omnipotent. And there's no limit to the things that can be done when it's given the desire to act. Once again, how do you give it the desire to act? Is through your thought process. And I can't overemphasize this idea that when we are utilizing our thought processes, that we have to throw in the emotions with it, number one. Number two, we have to be able to throw in our emotions with it. So I've suggested this before, and I'll suggest it again. Matter of fact, it's on some of the tapes. To go into your office in the morning before anybody's going to show up, and just go through the process of 100 people, give or take a few, if that's your desire to have 100 people. Or if it's 200 people, then you do it 200 times, or 300 times, or whatever times. And that is to go through and bring a person in, and adjust that person, feel their clothing, smell their smells, touch their skin, touch their hair, all in your imagination. And you go through the whole process of the adjustment, and then you say, I'll see you Wednesday, or whenever you're going to see them, and they leave, and you take the money. You're going to take the money in this particular instance, and let them go. And then you do that, and you talk to them, you smell them, you feel them, you get emotional with them 100 times, 200 times in the morning before anybody ever shows up. Then you do your meditation, then you do your visualization, then you create your day by writing it up, and you do your breath so that you can increase your energy, and you're off and running. So if you do that every morning, you'd be surprised what that would do, because what you're doing now is you're going through the same process in your mind in an instant of what you would go through if you were physically adjusting 100 or 200 or 300 people a day. And then through that repetitive action, and repetitive thought and repetitive emotions and the feeling of it all, and then rewiring your brain, it'll come to you. It just has to. It can't do anything else. So let's talk a bit about chiropractic commitment. I think that's an important thing. I think commitment is a very important thing. I know over the years of working with chiropractors, I find that they're not all committed, and yet they expect their patients to be committed. They'll tell a person that I want you to come in 3 times a week for the next 500 years, and then they don't show up, and then they get all bent out of shape. But at the same time, we'll find chiropractors who aren't committed because there's other things in their mind, which we're going to discuss. But commitment is perhaps probably the most important prerequisite of anything, because commitment to the principle. And people are attracted to committed people. So unfortunately, people confuse personality with commitment and charisma with dedication. And some of the most dedicated and committed chiropractors were not the flamboyant personalities of D.D. and B.J. Palmer. They were quiet, unassuming men and women, and except to the serious students of chiropractic history, most will never be known, because their contribution to this profession is no less than those names that come quickly to mind. And the commitment can be perceived in any type of personality because it shines through. It's true that the personality becomes part of a person's picture, and you see, and it shines through their personality, that is. And it's true that the charismatic person without commitment can usually do better than the chiropractor without commitment or charisma, because he or she might even temporarily do better than the committed chiropractor without charisma. But eventually, commitment to principle will demonstrate itself, and the person who has no commitment will be seen for what he is. It's important to understand that what you need is commitment, not a personality change. So one of my favorite books happens to be a green book, but not a chiropractic green book, believe it or not, because it's an account of the actual citations of every American soldier who has won the Congressional Medal of Honor, our country's highest award for service beyond the call of duty. And that may very well be a good definition in commitment. Service beyond the call of duty. And the description of these men's exploits is better than anything in Hollywood could ever write, because many of them gave their lives in the act. They all had one thing in common. Their commitment to their country was more important than their own personal safety. And there's others in our profession who remind me of Winston Churchill. Their contribution to our profession is not made in a blaze of glory. It's a tirelessly working for what is right. Sometimes they're despised for speaking the truth. But I think that when a crisis comes, they're the ones that everybody looks to for leadership and guidance. They burn themselves out for the good of the profession and the principles, and for the perpetuation of the principle. Then there are those who don't enjoy the limelight. My mentor was like that, Clark Rich. He was a tremendous leader, tremendous guy, but avoided the limelight. Didn't want anybody to know what he was doing, even though he was doing a great deal. And so these are like the Nathan Hales who quietly go about their work, but they make the ultimate sacrifice and are happy and proud to do it. Because we all know these types of chiropractors. There's 3 different personalities, yet all with something in common: a willingness to work for, and if necessary, die for a principle. And that's commitment. And the battle that B.J. fought, no doubt, shortened his life. And the time that the Scallons, if you don't remember who the Scallons were, they were a couple in California who went to jail several times for practicing medicine without a license, even though they weren't. And B.J. defended them as best he could. But the time that they spent in jail for practicing chiropractic probably reduced their lifespan. And the thousands of other committed chiropractors that worked many long hours, not for the great financial rewards that a lot of chiropractors today are able to gain, but for the very opportunity that today's chiropractors have to practice chiropractic. And we sort of forget them for some reason. We forget history. We forget our forefathers. And they fought against organized medicine, negative public opinion, and those within our profession who, if left to their devices, would have destroyed us. And they showed commitment, perhaps more than any of us will ever know. And there has to be a minimum level of commitment on the part of every chiropractor. But how can you know if you have reached that level? How do you know that? I'll give you a self-evaluation that can give you an indication of your level of commitment. And that's commitment to chiropractic, to your office, to your family, to the systems, to the gathering, to all the above, to your level of relating to the philosophy and the principle, and your commitment in relation to growth, how much you want to improve yourself. But is the delivery of chiropractic to the world more important than playing golf? And I have. Matter of fact, I remember Sid saying that if you wanted to be a great golfer, you could never be a great chiropractor, because there's nothing wrong with golf, but there's people who's going to bring to their office their bag of golf clubs so that they can leave early and go out and play a couple of games of golf. In giving chiropractic to people, or is it more important than your social life? And everybody needs a social life, hobbies and diversions from the day-to-day tasks of life. And the body, mind, and soul needs some R&R. But to a lot of chiropractors, the social life is more important than giving chiropractic care. They wouldn't dream of checking a patient's spine on their day off. And sometimes we even use philosophical excuses like chiropractic is not an aspirin, or it's just not crisis care. Yet if a family member was asked to have an adjustment on a day off, that person would oblige. So should we give our patients any less consideration? And there has to be a balance in an individual's life. However, most of us get enough rest and relaxation, perhaps more than we need. And commitment is tipping the balance of work and play slightly in favor of our life's calling, which happens to be chiropractic, I suppose. And is delivering chiropractic care to the world more important than making and spending money? And there's nothing wrong with making and spending money. And there's nothing wrong with making money and having money. But chiropractic was never intended to make people wealthy. And up until recently, it never did. Or strangely, when chiropractors began making inordinate amounts, I'm talking about bukus of money, the profession also seemed to lose its interest in chiropractic for the world. It doesn't mean that the two things, making money and giving service, are mutually exclusive, but when you focus on giving service, making money naturally results, because Parker always said that money was a byproduct of service, which is absolutely true. Did I lose everybody?
No, we're on.
Hello?
Well, what's all that noise? Got pianos playing and all kinds of things going on. So anyway, we need to focus on giving service, and if we do so, then money is a byproduct of that, and making money naturally results. So making money is a natural outgrowth of getting people under chiropractic care, and it's sort of like seeing changes in somebody's health with chiropractic care. It's not your objective or your concern. You know it's going to happen, but you don't focus on it. And those that focus on seeing changes in people's health usually wind up mixing. And those that focus on making money usually end up mercenary. And it's delivering chiropractic care to the world more important than taking vacations. Now, I'm not suggesting you never take a vacation. There's probably no chiropractor in history who traveled more than BJ. But where do vacations fall on your scale of values? And most people work 50 weeks of the year so that they can enjoy a 2-week vacation. Chiropractors who are committed see their work as an avocation. They don't need a vacation from it, because most of the time their vacations will be combining relaxation with something relative to the profession, such as a seminar or a convention. My mentor, Clark Rich, would work seeing his steady 200 visits a day, 5 days a week, and probably 100 or so people on Saturday, so that's 5.5 days a week. And then Sunday he would spend with his family. But then when he took his 1-week vacation every year, he went to Palmer, and where he went to Palmer was to homecoming. So, or Lyceum, as you might want to call it. So he was totally committed. And I don't suggest that everybody needs to do that. My daughter probably takes as many vacations as BJ. As a matter of fact, she takes more vacations than she works. But she's committed to her practice when she's there. But that's her. And perhaps the bottom line is that if you don't think everybody should be under chiropractic care and want to work toward that end, then there's a good chance you lack commitment. And wanting to see everybody under chiropractic care, of course, doesn't mean that you have to see them all. You need to find the comfortable limit to the number of people that you want to see in a day's time. You probably are physically able, at least, of seeing and adjusting a whole lot more people than you believed you could at the outset. So, whatever that number is normal for you and nobody else. So, I might add, it's terribly low if your practice is terribly low, then you should be doing other things to demonstrate your commitment, such as serving a professional organization or speaking, writing books, or giving to chiropractic charities or whatever. So if more of your time is taken up by anything other than chiropractic, except perhaps sleep, then you lack commitment to chiropractic somewhere. Because really, chiropractic is your life. How can you do anything other than live? And if that be the case, then I know for a fact that you're doing well. If you're not doing well, you're on your way to doing well. And some people might say, well, that's asking an awful lot. But in actuality, it's nothing compared to the early pioneers in our profession.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning." When we speak of growth, many words come to mind, like development, as in it hasn't yet reached its full growth. Now, that could be a plant you were talking about, or even a skill, or how you work in your office, as in going from a simpler to a more complex stage. In any manner, it is all still talking about growth. Dr. Sigafoose says that life is growth, and growth is change. Everything is supposed to grow in life, and without growth, then we do not learn or change as humans. But in order to grow, we must be willing to control our thoughts, because to control our thoughts is to control circumstances, conditions, environment, and our destiny. Now, what does all this have to do with growth? Well, let's think about that. If we have good thoughts, then we can manifest and create good things. But conversely, if we focus on bad thoughts, then we create bad or evil things. Now ask yourself, which of these two things is growth? That's correct. Good thoughts. And without controlling them, we do not grow. Do you understand? Now, according to Dr. Sigafoose, thoughts and feelings are an irresistible combination. When you think about things, they can elicit many different emotions, and these emotions can assist you in gaining the things that you want. What did Dr. Sig say? Be it in your mind first, and then do what you need to have what you want. Our thoughts enable us to harness all natural powers, because the innate mind is omnipotent, and what we think, we can create. Here's where Dr. Sigafoose wants you to try and harness those thoughts so that you will be able to grow, not just as a person, but also to grow your practice. He suggests that you go into your office in the morning before anyone shows up and go through the process of seeing 100 people. Do the entire process in your mind. See them, touch them, adjust them, and take the money and reschedule them. Do all this in your mind. This is not something that takes hours. You do this in your mind and in an instant. By doing this, you will not only start to grow your practice, but you will start to grow as a person. Let me explain my thoughts on this. Dr. Sig started talking about capital at this point. He said, and I quote, "Capital is an effect. It is not a cause. It is a servant, not a master. It is not an end, but a means." I don't think he was talking about capital as in currency, but more as an intangible type of currency, because it was at this point he said success is more than the mere accumulation of riches. Let me sum this part up on growth, if you will, because it really seemed difficult for me to understand at first. If we can grow our practice through having good thoughts and controlling those thoughts by seeing the growth of the practice in our minds, in the office, before we open, and do this every day, then we will not only grow as a person by continuing to have good thoughts, but then our office will grow, and our patients will improve, and in turn, they will refer, and we will improve our financial situation. But we will have done this by growing from the inside out, and in the end, isn't that what growth is? Improving and achieving what we have thought in order to succeed. Whew. Okay, my head hurts a little bit. Now, if you have to take a break for a minute, I would totally understand, because next we're going to go over the next topic, that being commitment. I remember reading someplace once that desire is the key to motivation, but it's determination and commitment to an unrelenting pursuit of your goal, a commitment to excellence that will enable you to attain the success that you seek. I don't remember where I read that, but I've always tried to live by it. So the big question of this next area is, are you committed? This is an incredibly important thing, because how can you expect your patients to commit to you if you cannot commit to what you do? The act of committing, the state of being committed, pledging, or engaging oneself is all dependent on your involvement. In our history, it was not the flamboyant chiropractors that were the most committed. It was the quiet ones who were committed to the principle. The ones who went to jail over and over because they were committed to the cause of chiropractic, and not the chiropractic of today, that being backaches, pains, and strains, but of finding and correcting the subluxation so that the power that made the body could heal the body. Dr. Sigafoose talks about a different type of green book here, not the chiropractic green book, but the book of the list of people who have gotten the Congressional Medal of Honor. The men and women of America who went above and beyond the call of duty. Are you doing service beyond the call of duty? Are you working tirelessly to do what is right? Dr. Sig seems to say here that if you love what you do, then why would you need a vacation from it? This is a type of total commitment. Is it right or wrong? Well, that is up to you and your level of commitment as to what you want out of life. But if you are looking for a high volume practice where you serve as many as you can, then your hobby cannot be more important than what you do, and that is being a chiropractor and serving as many as you possibly can. Everyone needs a social life, but is your social life more important to you than your practice? My job here isn't to answer that question for you. It is merely something for you to think about. Do you have balance? Commitment means tipping the scale of that balance a little in the direction of your life's goal. Money and growth and commitment are a byproduct of service. It is a natural outgrowth of getting people under chiropractic care. So in the end, is it all about controlling your thoughts so that you can grow your practice through being committed to what you do, being a chiropractor? Well, to be honest, I'm going to cut it off there. Remember that this was only about 15 to 20 minutes of a 30 to 40 minute consultation call. And in the end, my wrap-up is what I got out of this call after listening to it about 9 or 10 times. There was one part of this consultation call where Dr. Sigafoose said that when we read a book over again, we get something different from it each time. That is growth. So I encourage you to head on over to Sigafoose.com and sign up for our email notification. And as soon as we get all these calls digitized, they will be available for you to own. I highly recommend that you get them and listen to them over and over again, and to start to grow and change in your own life. Thanks for listening, and as always, I look forward to talking to you again next week. Take care.
Thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in more of Dr. Sigafoose's material, head on over for your daily dose of chiropractic philosophy to www.sigafoose.com and register for our free newsletter and to find today's audio clip of Dr. Sigafoose in its entirety. Remember to give, love, do, and serve.